Good evening. Welcome to Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13 School Board meeting for Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome again. Ted, if you would please do a roll call.
Member Samurai?
Here.
Member Lewis?
Here.
Member Larkin?
Here.
Member Palmer?
Here.
Member Landwehr here. Superintendent Kelly?
Here.
Thank you. Our mission statement, Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. Next up is the agenda approval, adjustments, announcements, and correspondence. First up would be the excuse me, the approval of the agenda. If I could get a motion to move that forward.
So moved.
Laura, thank you.
Second.
Molly, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Announcements. November 24th and 25th, no school. The district offices will be closed. December 6th at 5 p.m. there'll be a subcommittee on policy. Also December 6th at 6:30, there will be a tenured teacher reception here in the Family Center, And then December 6th, also at 7 p.m., regular school board meeting here in the community room. And then December 23rd through January 2nd, no school, be a winter break. Correspondence, Superintendent Kelly, any correspondence?
Chair Larkin, members of the board, there's no correspondence at this time.
Okay, thank you. Communication to the board. Citizen employee representatives. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request that the administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time. Anyone here? No slips. Okay, move on to acknowledgement of contributions. This will be a resolution, so I'll ask for a motion in a second. I'll read it and then we'll discuss if there is anything.
So moved.
Motion by Ted,
Second.
second by Laura. Thank you. Acknowledgement of contribution resolutions. Whereas Minnesota Statute 123B.202 permits school boards to receive for the benefits of the district bequests, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of pupils thereof. Therefore, be it resolved by the School Board of Columbia Heights Public Schools, Independent School District Number 13, that the school board accepts with appreciation the contributions detailed in the background in the amount of $1,786.88. The detailed background is as follows. A donation of $30 was made to Valley View Elementary by Carissa Gang for student needs. A donation of $90 was made to Valley View Elementary by Lisa Marat for student needs. A donation of $50 was made to Valley View Elementary by Kyle Poteria for student needs. A donation of $250 was made to Valley View Elementary by Columbia Heights Lions Club for hats and mittens for student needs. And a donation of $250 was made to Highland Elementary by Columbia Heights Lions Club for hats and mittens for student needs. For value in kind, donation of backpack and supplies to Columbia Heights High School by Mr. Car Wash for student needs, estimated value $350. Donation of backpack to Highland Elementary by David Greider for student needs, estimated value of $20. Donation of supplies for life and social skills for students with autism to Highland Elementary Special Education by DonorChoose.org for student needs, estimated value of $621.87. Donation of case of apples to Highland Elementary by Faldine American Legion Post 555 for teacher appreciation, estimated value $75. And a donation of a case of apples to Valley View Elementary by Falding American Legion Post 555 for teacher appreciation, estimated value of $75. Total fiscal year 2016-2017 monetary contributions to date, $9,170.35. Any discussion or comments?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hearing nothing further, Ted, if you would, roll call vote, please.
Member Samurai,
Here. Aye. Sorry.
Member Lewis,
Aye.
Member Larkin,
Aye.
Member Palmer.
Aye.
Aye.
Still having a hard time with the here and I.
No notes. All right. Next up would be the discussion reports, information items. Reports from members of the board. Board members will report on board activity since the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. And Hala, could start with you, please.
Sure. So since the last long board meeting last week, I've been talking to members of the community and hearing about things that are important to them. So that's what I've been doing.
Molly?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to attend the football banquets for both the Columbia Heights High School football team and the Columbia Academy football team, and also had the honor of watching the Strikers soccer team compete at the state tournament over the weekend. And I just really want to applaud the district, the students, administration, teachers, and everyone for rallying around them and giving them the support that they needed. It was a tough loss in that first game, but it was really exciting. So thank you. That's it.
Okay. Laura?
Well, yeah, it was a long board meeting last week. We're going to have another long board meeting this weekend and in 2 weeks again. Well, I attended the robotics competition for the Academy, sent 6 teams out to Eden Prairie to compete against other grade level teams, and they did very well. And the Royal Engineers are going on to the next competition. They're a young team, first-tier team. They did a wonderful job. All the kids were really great, and it was a lot of fun. It was a very long day, but it was well worth it. The kids really had a good time, and I think they really put their best foot forward. And there is another one coming up now over at the Academy, not this coming up weekend, but the following weekend. It'll be 2 days, and we will be the host. So if you get a chance to get out there and see what the kids are doing, what they're learning, what they're creating, what they're envisioning, it's a really cool opportunity. And then I attended the high school concert yesterday, where was presented the bands over at the high school, as well as all the choirs, and it was very well attended. It was a great show. A lot of really enthusiastic kids, really, putting it out there and showing what they've got and making us all proud. So that was a lot of fun. Oh, and then I attended the chair meeting just prior to this meeting.
Thank you. Ted?
I talked to constituents at the Taste of Columbia Heights Mayor's Kickoff, and also at the Columbia Heights Lions meeting. The Lions did pass around a thank you card for the hats and mittens, and so I just think it's a wonderful thing that we can partner with community organizations like the Lions to benefit our students. So great all around. I also attended the TIES conference with Superintendent Kelly, or the TIES annual meeting, with Superintendent Kelly and Technology Director Hennekens. And I just want to say that there is a great emphasis on being customer friendly, and not just customer friendly. They're viewing school districts as partners and differentiated needs. So I found that very encouraging, and that they would be hopefully more responsive to the district's needs going forward. There are 50 districts in TIES right now, and TIES is our technology cooperative, and it's growing with more than 50 districts, and they're looking at return on investment now. It's more of a business model. So I thought that was all very positive, and I'm looking forward to even more positive things from TIES. And they do want to build research and development capability so that they can produce more advanced software and advanced technology.
Thanks. Just recognize that Maddie, member Stevenson is here, and if you have a board report, that's where we're at.
Yeah, sorry, weather. I'm trying to think. Let me collect myself. I was just at the robotics tournament. That was mostly, the teams are mostly comprised of Columbia Academy students. We had 6 teams there. Did Member Palmer, did you already talk about it?
Just a little bit.
Go for it. It was very fun to see the kids and the creative things they were doing in a kind of collaborative and competitive environment. It's an interesting environment. It was interesting to see the kids there. And I'm trying to think, it's only been a week. So I think other than having conversations with community members and various people here, that's it.
Okay. If you think of something you want to add at the end for board topics, that's fine too.
Thanks.
All right. I had the opportunity to watch the high school fall play 3 times with Elephant Graveyard. The kids did an amazing job with what I would say is a difficult piece. And the acting was beyond what I expected from the kids, and I usually expect quite a bit from them. So they did a really nice job. I was also at the Taste of Columbia Heights. I went to the Strikers. They played on Saturday as well. And I have to say, I was watching on a social media page, someone was posting the Strikers, and I couldn't tell if they won or lost at the end because it was overtime, it was tied in an overtime, and then somebody scored a goal, and then the next picture I saw was the fans were mobbing the team on the court, and I'm like, well, did they win or did they lose? I didn't know. So echoing what Molly said, and we've seen this before, but just the support from the community, from the students and things like that, it's almost overwhelming at times. So it was really cool. And they played really hard on Saturday as well. It was fun to watch. I also attended the high school concert for the bands and the choirs, and I will concur with Member Palmer that the kids did an awesome job. In fact, the high school kids were kind of under the gun because the Columbia Academy, or not Columbia Academy, the I'm trying to remember the names of the bands now. We had the symphonic band and then the concert band, and the symphonic band came out and they were just phenomenal. I go, oh boy, that concert band better really step up tonight if they're gonna, and they did, and they all did a wonderful job, and the choir was amazing, all the different choirs as well. So other than that, I attended the chair meeting prior to this meeting, and that concludes my report. So move on to superintendent's report. Do you have a report tonight?
Members and Chair Larkin, yes, I do, and it's probably longer than the rest of yours. So I don't know what happened in such a short span of time, but lots of what was going on. Columbia Heights Public Schools is the recipient of a 6-year grant that will fund a new social worker position at the district's Columbia Academy Middle School. And the grant is supported by the state legislature and approved by the executive branch. It totals $250,000, really. The district will match the state dollars. For the first 4 years, $1 for the, let me read this right. The district will match the state funds dollar for the first 4 years, and then $3 for every state dollar for the remaining in years 5 and 6. It is a position we really needed, that was warranted at the academy, and we're very delighted to have that position. So I think that there'll be a piece in the paper. I think Joe Nathan is doing something in the Sun Focus about it, so look for it there, but we are so grateful. I also was going to say congratulations to the Columbia Academy robotics team, and as always, they have those engineering minds at work. And they were featured today on the superintendent's Instagram, so if you want to see a picture. And I think Casey's done a follow-up article about it, so go Columbia Heights, and well done. At Valley View, I think I may have mentioned, but I wanted to officially again thank all Valley View students are receiving 5 free Scholastic books thanks to an unexpected gift from a nonprofit called Read Indeed. The school was one of only 4 in the metropolitan area that was picked, and they received 500 books from the nonprofit. And what's I think is so unique about this nonprofit is it was started by a teenager. And it was a teenager whose goal was to collect and distribute 1 million books by the time she was 18, and she really accomplished that goal by the time she was 13. So isn't that totally cool for the power of youth? As Member Landwehr already said, Member Landwehr and Director Hennekens and I went down to the TIE's annual meeting, and that was very informative, and I will agree with everything that you said on that. And then yesterday, I had my first meeting at TIE's on membership. and I'm representing the small school districts. And TIES has some thorny questions that they're trying to address in the membership area and as an organization. And they lie in the realms of, what does TIES membership really mean? We've been members for forever, and so have, I think what they call ANOCA is, the ANOCA School District is perpetual, whatever that means. But we've never really gotten to the rub of what is TIES membership. What does it really mean? What is the value added for belonging to TIES? And how much is a reasonable cost for the members in the of the school districts? As Ted alluded to, Executive Director Mark Wolick has right-sized the TIES from the financial disaster they were in to the staff. They now only have 4 chiefs and an executive director leading those teams down there. But they still have to please over 50 different school districts. And so there's a big difference between the needs and the wants that school districts would like to put on the organization. And so in moving to that business model, they are clarifying the why behind why districts join and why they remain members, and how they can remain competitive in the environment that we exist in today rather than when it was formed. And it's interesting because Washington, D.C. contacted TIES to study them because there's really no other entity quite like them, and that has this broad range of uniqueness and support in the area of technology, so they would like to replicate it. And here within TIES, as partners and owners, we're trying to figure out still a little bit what it is. So it'll be fun. And so we're going to meet again in December, and then after that, once we're an advisory group, so once we make some recommendations, we'll be bringing them first to the TIES Executive Board, and then I'll be sharing them with you. So that was a full day of activities down there. Director Stenvig and I met with the Executive Director of EMID and Equity Alliance to discuss some possible continued collaborations around equity issues and student activities. If you remember last year, in our plan, or for this year's plan, Dr. Parks recommended that we work on some student activities with St. Anthony, so we were doing that, and we were also working with some student activities through the Equity Alliance with St. Anthony as well. So it was a very informative meeting, and after January, I think once we start solidifying what's going into the integration grant, we will be coming back to you and talking a little bit about what are the options, what are the things we're thinking of putting in there as a consultation more than anything else as we move forward through the grant process on that. District and building administration met for another Lead and Learn, and that was just this morning. And it was focused on the overarching literacy goals that we've been talking to you about and how the progress was being met toward meeting those goals. And the group continues to also work on looking at coherence and identifying the right devices to, the right drivers to put in action for both our buildings and for our district to drive the mission forward. And so that will be, our learning will be learning and presenting and to one another and drawing on research and outside sources throughout this year. So that is our topic, is coherence. The Performing Arts Studio is just about completed, and when it is totally completed, TV installed, Brian, and the last of the lights in, we will have you walk down and see what it's all about, but more importantly, we'll be putting kids into it. So there's a task force or a committee meeting on what, who has access and when, what's the curriculum going to be, and what are the rules and protocols down there. And so pretty exciting space. And it also has implications for 612 curriculum for next year as far as courses. And so we'll be able to develop out our musical theater offerings at the high school formally because we'll have space for it. I want to just say that I really felt like we had our hearts in the arts in the last week. I'm going to just agree with everybody that attended a play or a choir concert, and I don't know, Natty, if you attended the Elephant's Graveyard or not.
I wasn't able to. I was out of town last week.
Okay, so, but, well, you can tell it's still something's going on here. We have a fly. The Elephant's Graveyard, and I want to thank our activities director who is in the audience tonight, and Principal Roboleski, because they read a play with a new director and took a chance. And it was really a very complex, thought-provoking, and at some points rather dark play to put on for high school students, and it had a high degree of artistic responsibility because there was less dialogue between the cast members, but more telling a story to the audience. And I just thought it was so uniquely done, and to perfection actually, that I just wanted to compliment the cast, the crew, the director, the activities director, and the principal for taking a chance on that play. Wonderfully done. The Columbia Heights Band and Choir concert, fall concert, was great. I agree with the rest of you, what you said. The band, they're so improved, and as performing artists, such complexity in their music. It was very, very difficult, and you could tell that they had really practiced a great deal, and it was just a joy to watch. And then the choir had its inaugural performance with its new director, Mr. Joshua Cunningham. And so that was very entertaining as well. We did go a little late, but it was worth every minute of it because of that. And I just want to say that I saw students who were in the play for 3 nights then perform on Monday at the band and choir, both in band and choir. And so it just tells you that we have some totally engaged students in addition to doing their academics. So hats off to all of them. The strikers were delightful. That was a nail biter. So go strikers. It was a great experience down there. I went on Friday night. I didn't go on Saturday. But I want to congratulate the team and the coaches. At lunchtime today, I spoke at the Kiwanis Club, and so I'm nearing the end, everybody. And really, that was a delight. I don't know how many of you are familiar or have been a member of Kiwanis. Some of you probably have. And some of you may have family members, I understand, that might have been. I think your daughter has joined. That's really great, Ted. The Kiwanis have supported our school for probably over 18 years with the Key Club. And they really follow the model of the Golden Rule, and they invest in youth around the world. And we're very, very lucky to have them working with our youth. And so I went over and talked a little bit about the district, but it was fascinating. Fridley students were there today, and it was fascinating just to see the interaction of how they commit to kids and stay with them. And so that was a great deal of fun. And then, of course, I want to thank, I've spent time with a lot of you in the last short week, and I want to thank you for spending time with me and for the multiple meetings or contacts that I've had with you all. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move forward. Next up is the building vision card and continuous improvement plan for Columbia Academy.
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, I'm pleased to be here this evening with Principal Burkus. This evening we're going to present the Columbia Academy scorecard, vision card. And I just want to say before we get started that I do believe that in the year and a quarter that Principal Burkus has been at the helm at Columbia Academy, that he's making a really positive impact. He doesn't know I'm saying this. He didn't know. Really is making a positive impact in the building. When I'm down there and I'm visiting, it's a visible notice. I can notice it visibly. It's different.
Thank you. Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. Pleased to be here tonight to talk to you about Columbia Academy and the incredible students and staff that we have there. I think core values, I think the one that I'm going to try to focus on tonight is maybe the one that's not written there, the one brevity. Is that the 8th one that maybe, I will try to move through my presentation, but highlight some of the great things that are going on there. But I will try to keep it moving. The enrollment is way up. Since the beginning of the school year, we've been right around 750 students, and so you can see that that is significantly higher than last year, and that the arrow has been pointing up. We knew that big classes were coming up from the elementary, and but we're pleased to see our enrollment. 750 fills up the building. Our hallways are full. Our demographics, as you can see, we have a very diverse school, and we're proud of that. We have a high free and reduced lunch count. We're right around 80%, 81%, probably a little bit higher this year. This is reflecting the last school year, so you can see with that comes challenges, but it also is the reason that many people get up in the morning and come and work there. Our data, again, I'm going to try to keep moving through this. Use of articulated standards-based curriculum. We're doing a 5 there where we are dedicated to standards-based curriculum. PLCs, we meet weekly, so a 5. Use of formative instruction. We have pushed that, and we will continue to push to have formative instruction guide our teaching. Effective teaching strategies. We believe that our students are engaged by their teachers, and that our walkthroughs show that to us week in and week out. Presence and use of classroom embedded 21st century learning. This is one where I know, debated at times, what does that exactly mean? I think technology sometimes precedes the actual implementation of all of the different kinds of things that we mean when we say 21st century learning. But it's moving, and I'm proud to say that our teachers use technology more and more every year. And I think they are becoming more and more, they're embedding more and more the 4 C's as well into what they do. Percentage of evaluated teachers at the base proficient, again, rating that very, very high for us. Presence of multi-tiered interventions for academics. We do have interventions for reading and math. Science is a little different, but reading and math, we do have intervention classes for both of those. Presence of multi-tiered interventions for behavior, again, across our school, so all classrooms really. Presence of elements of STEAM. We don't integrate STEAM through the building, but we do have an engineering program. So that's where we have it. Our students go, and all of our students are able to take engineering classes as part of being at Columbia Academy. AVID has come to Columbia Academy now, and we're proud of that. Last year was the first year, and we are school-wide, and now we do have our first year of a cohort as well, but very pleased in our walkthroughs again to see that we are implementing our AVID strategies. And then with parent involvement, looking again at where we're at with this, I think it is growing. We had just over 50% of our students have parents come to the parent-teacher conferences this year, which is slightly higher than last year, and hopefully we can keep building that. It does get harder as you get to middle school and high school to bring parents in. Participation gap between student groups in the arts. You can see that we don't have a big participation gap. We do have very, very diverse student participation. And along with that, the parent engagement and points of contact. Our parents do, I believe, feel like there's a lot of contact that is being made by the district to parents, or by Columbia Academy. Going into the test scores, reading and math and science, as you can see, we still are at levels that we are not satisfied with, and we will continue to work hard to move that needle in the right direction. We've been fairly level. We have not been growing at great pace, or improving at a great pace, or decreasing, but we do want to burst through that. Our goal this year is to have a 10% increase in our proficiency. MCA gap to standard for students in reading, you can see in level 2. The ACT, well, now I'm sorry, last year it was Explore. So again, concerned about not always getting the best effort perhaps from our kids on the Explore test. trying to do a better job of selling it, making sure that they take it seriously and that they know that this can provide them good information about their readiness for college. Equity, there is a difference. It is mostly between two ethnic groups, but much closer in all the rest. Moving into behavior, we were high in behavior referrals again last year. We take a pretty hard line in terms of what we expect, and we hopefully are getting the message out that we expect our classrooms to work well. And they do, because we won't tolerate lots of misbehavior in the classroom. We do have, though, again, there's a difference between our referral groups, and that is something that we will have to continue to work on. Our out-of-school suspensions were much lower than what is listed there, so it was much fewer than 350 incidents. So I'm happy to go back to any of those at the end, but if I can just keep plowing forward. With Columbia Academy, we've really talked a lot about defining our culture there as one of academics. And when we say that, we're talking about trying to get kids ready for high school, for college and career. 3 things that we try to work on: character building, strong relationships, and rigorous academics. So why character? Well, I think character really is the key. Our kids, more than ever, I think, have adversity that they have to work through. We hope that while they do that, we can teach them what we call our rise up, and make sure that they are developing the character which will see them to success and happiness in life. So what is that? Respect, we talk about giving it and getting it. Integrity, about doing the right thing. Strength, we talk about that mostly in terms of effort, that effort is the key. Excellence in doing your best. Understanding in being kind. And then pride, to go Highlanders. So every quarter we celebrate, and we have about 35 to 50 kids that are rewarded the Rise Up Awards, and their families come and celebrate that. But we try to make sure that mantra is out there on a daily basis, that students know that together we can rise up, and we say it often. Relationships is that second component, and why relationships? Again, it's because we think it's foundational. If we don't have significant relationships, we don't have significant learning. And so we really did add this point this year. As you enter our school, you will see that we're really talking about this is a place where we all belong. And what do we mean by that? We mean that we are going to pay attention to relationships. In our classrooms, we are building community. We focus on listening to our kids, teaching kindness, inclusivity, restorative practices. You have to get after middle school kids at times, as you know. How do we mend and make sure that we have relationships even after that happens with them? And then friendship, and I think that is such a key factor. This can be an age where students can say things that are mean, but it also can be an amazing time when they discover new friendships and develop friendships across boundaries that exist perhaps other places in our country. You really don't see much of that, or you see much less of that, I believe, in a place like Columbia Academy. And then, of course, the third is the rigorous academics, and we know how key, and we talk about this in our district, that if we want to have worlds of opportunities for every learner, we really do have to have college-ready students, and that starts with being ready for high school. And so we try to make sure that our kids are getting that message on a regular basis as well. AVID is that framework then that we use to try to provide that rigorous education. And as you can see, they talk a lot about writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. We are really focused on those last two. Organization and reading, of where we started last year, organization. This year we added reading to it. So what do we mean by that? The first thing is, as you with middle school kids know, students bring home binders and planners on a daily basis, and that's a communication piece for parents, but it's also a way for us to help make sure that our kids are organized. We also have taught them a way to take notes that is more organized, so we are actively teaching Cornell Notes, which is used in AVID schools across the country and also in many colleges, which then become part of their binders. For reading, as part of AVID, we have been working on a school-wide comprehension strategy called HUGS, and by that we mean highlight, underline, gloss, and summarize. So this is a strategy for reading text when when it's not easy, perhaps, when you really do need to pay attention to the details. And we're trying to do that across the curriculum. So in every subject, we are saying, you're going to teach reading. And with that, you're going to have rigorous text that requires the use of HUGs. So that has been our big push this year, and it will continue to be our big push, that every teacher takes time in their class to teach reading and to utilize this strategy, but the reading that they do really is at grade level. So we've spent some time this past District Day and Building Day, we spent a lot of time doing PD on reading, and we had all of our teachers take the 8th grade MCA. And we said, take it and see how you do. And I wish I had taken a picture of that, because about 45 minutes to an hour in, I was watching them, and they were holding their heads, and they were looking. It was tougher, much tougher than they thought. And so I think it builds empathy. The expectations for kids and what they're supposed to do now is extremely high. If you'd like to spend your Saturday afternoons doing it, it's online. Anybody can take it. But it is quite enlightening, actually. So we are trying very hard, though, to make sure we are emphasizing rigorous text with our teachers, so that our students are dealing with that on a regular basis. So a comprehensive look at it then is, we have a strategy that we're teaching in HUGS. We have an incredible librarian who's pushing books like I've never seen before. And so extensive reading is a big part of this as well. Intensive reading, research, going deeper, looking at primary sources is a third component of it, and then of course writing. So all of that fits underneath that umbrella of working on reading or working on literacy. We believe each are key component in that initiative. So just very quickly, though, I do also want to talk about what are we doing across the building, since this is about, what do we do down there? And so our academic programming, I think I just describe it in general as always trying to find that appropriate balance of challenge and support. So, and that changes. That changes by the nature of your classroom or subject, or the students that you have, or the lesson that you're teaching. But we do have advanced programming. We have honors in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, along with pre-AP. And then we have advanced math for high school credit as well. And just in our honors class, this is our 6th grade honors class here the other day, listening in on a conversation. And my only way to describe it was kind of felt like I was back in college. I was listening to an incredible debate going on. The way that they can articulate their thoughts is truly amazing. And I believe our teachers enjoy it greatly, but they're also challenged themselves to keep the kids keep pushing the kids as best they can.
Can I just add?
Sure.
Can I just add that one trend we're seeing at Columbia Academy with the advanced programming is an increase in enrollment and kids who are qualifying into the advanced programming. And so that 6th grade class is full.
Yep.
Whereas perhaps in the past, they've been smaller classes. No longer. They are they're full classes.
Yeah. Yeah. We have our first AVID elective, where they learn, again, organizational skills, critical thinking. They have access to college tutors, and we really try to have that atmosphere and that message that plan for college. And these are kids where that's still a really, really new message for them that I think are starting to see themselves differently. And we have an amazing teacher, off to a good start, I believe, in our AVID elective class. We also have, as that tiered support mentioned earlier, we have everyday support classes. We have all of our math classes, other than the high school credit classes, are every day, so that's basically doubling them to provide extra support. We have Tier 3 reading for our students at the lowest levels, and we have English learners levels 1 and 2, which are with EL teachers most of the day. We have some special ed classrooms, and then we have a 6th grade house program, which is basically an elementary classroom where students get almost all of their, spend almost all of their day for those kids who are perhaps not quite ready to go out and be in the thick of it in a middle school. Again, as Superintendent Kelly has said before, our heads are on the academics and our hearts in the arts, and saw this on one of our art teachers' walls, talking about, so why teach the arts? Why be so committed to the arts? I thought this provided some additional ideas there that she talks about with our kids. But when you go through our school and you hear, it's one of my favorite things to be able to hear what's going on in our theater class or in our band or in any of our other classrooms. We have just amazing teachers there as well. Amazing music that's made. Theater, if you saw the Lion King last year, just an amazing production. So going down the east and west hallways of our building are really fun because there is very, very high quality work being done there by our students and our teachers. Whoops, going the wrong way, sorry. So our arts programming, and I think, whoop, well, that's too bad. Those are the pictures I really hoped you could see. Let's see if I go back and let it go by itself, if that'll work. And it might not, but if it doesn't, I do have some more at the end. Well, that's too bad. Come visit. Our hallways, our classrooms are just so full of magical art. If I won't try to describe them. I think you just have to see it to believe it. But again, going down the west hallway and walking between that art is an amazing thing for me. We do teach PE and health on a full schedule for all students, have it every semester. One of the big things that we have tried to focus in on is water safety. It is a leading cause, or second leading cause, I believe, of death among students 12 years old and younger. It can be water, Minnesota is everywhere, but it can be dangerous. We have, amazing to see how many of our kids have not been in water up to their necks before, or put their faces in the water. So we aren't doing full-blown swimming lessons. What we're doing is a step even before that, is how can you be safe in and around the water? So they're doing things that look perhaps to people who've been in the water a lot, like perhaps many of us, things that look pretty easy, but getting kids to jump in the water with a life jacket on when they've never really been in the water over their head, it can take a little coaxing. And so we feel we've moved this from 6th now up into 7th as well, because we believe it's a very, very important component of what we teach, making sure our kids are safe. World Language and English Learners, the trip to Concordia is perhaps the best example of what Ms. Nelson does with our Spanish speakers. She's also an EL teacher along with several more, but we have just incredible things that go on with our Spanish classes there. I think, again, it's one of the highlights. They are right above me, and all of a sudden, about 9 o'clock, I hear and then I hear the music, and then I hear all the feet, and they're dancing, and she gets them up and moving on a daily basis, singing in Spanish and doing their little dance moves. It's a lot of fun. So that's our programming. To stay in touch with parents, we try to communicate in all of these different ways. We daily through the planner and the binder, weekly through the grade report that we send home. Saturday and Sunday through principal updates, and then the monthly newsletter that we send out. So we try to do that on a continuous basis throughout the year. We do have a very, very busy schedule there. For example, if you just look here, we have the young men with the basketball that were there at 6 o'clock or 6:30, starting 6:30 last Friday, and I know many moms and dads are dropping off to get them there. The young man with the safety glasses on there, Mr. Kennedy, and his crew were there until 7 o'clock Friday night. So it goes from early morning to late at night, and but there's so many different activities that kids can be part of, high-quality activities that we feel are so important. Kids can get in a lot of trouble so quickly, but if they have good activities to go to, it helps a lot. I'm going to keep moving. Other activities that they can be part of, web leaders who work on a lot of different varieties. One of the things that they do is help with Team United along with the Student Council. Here you can see some excited kids after winning, I think it was their basketball tournament that they were in. I think they had 3 or 4 different events last year, and they do a wonderful job of working, uniting our school together. I have only one slide for student support, but I could spend a much longer time here. Student support works in so many key areas: mental health, academics, behavior, and health. I wasn't sure what picture to put here. And then, I was thinking the other day, I know I've oftentimes talked to the superintendent about how important I believe literacy is and what could be more important. And I came across a very interesting little story about Martin Luther King, who heard someone like me say that to a group of teachers, and he leaned over to the person, he said, no, he says, the most important thing is that we teach our students to believe in themselves. And I think there's so much truth in that, that we need to teach our kids to have confidence, that they can perform, that they can do well in life, that they can make friends and follow directions. And so our student support team does an amazing job of trying to build those trusting relationships, to integrate all that they do into time perhaps that looks like academic work, but in fact, life lessons being taught on just a regular basis. So we have amazing people there in student support, and they do very, very important work for us. Technology, we are a one-to-one, as you know, and we are really trying this year to use that for literacy, and I do see kids working on papers and looking for information online all the time. We also have Chromebooks now in 6th grade, which is a slightly different kind of computer for us, and I think from what I understand from teachers and students, the feedback is very positive, that they like the keyboards, they like how it's working. They seem to be holding up well too. As far as our school goes, I guess, there is the philosophy that or the vision that we have. As far as leadership goes, we do try to work very collaboratively, and so we have a leadership team that meets regularly, along with task forces in all of these different areas, who provide leadership, suggestions for change, and in addition to that, then we have grade level teams. So one of the things, I guess, that we're looking for always, as I'm sure all of our schools are, is what can we celebrate? And so we have celebrated over this past year, and it's starting this year again, many different things, whether that's Rise Up breakfasts or our academic success night or our honor rolls. We're trying to make sure that our kids realize that it is great to win a football game, but it's even greater to get an A in math, or an A in social studies, whatever it may be. So really trying to emphasize that academic success. In closing, we have 2 big upcoming events. Thank you for your for talking about this already. We have the regional robotics competition coming up on December 3rd and 4th, and it does go all day. So you can come at any time, and it'll be going on anytime between 7 in the morning and 7 at night, both days, Saturday and Sunday. And then we have the musical Annie Jr. That's coming up on the 15th, 16th, and 17th. And I can hear them singing when I go down the hallway, and I can tell you, I think it's going to be very good. We've got some amazing voices once again for our musical. I will stop there and
Do you have any questions?
Just a comment, I hope, I'm glad to see that you're trying to engage parents more, because programs will never replace parents. But what you're doing seems very individualized, or increasingly so, and that's very encouraging.
thank you.
I actually have a question with regard to the out-of-class referrals. And I know that, over in those years, it's a little bit more difficult. I was wondering what type of strategies maybe we're looking at reducing that. Are you trying anything different, or what are we looking at? Still seems pretty high.
Yeah, I think the behavior probably peaks, in incidents probably, maybe 9th grade, or maybe even 10th grade, it's probably still high. But I know 7th and 8th grade in particular, over the years, seems to be a tough year for kids to sometimes be able to follow directions. We have a couple of things that we're doing, I think, that are the biggest thing that we're trying to do is make sure that the structure that we provide them is consistent, that there is across the building, that there's rituals and routines that are built in that allow students to sort of get in the swing of things and know that it's not going to change on a daily basis. It's consistent. And so trying to do that across the school, that can be difficult, but that has been one of our major pushes. But to have that high structure, along with those strong relationships. And so it is, I believe, that combination. So we've emphasized both, that there's really no way around, there's no way to make kids just simply comply. You have to, really the only power we have is the power we have in our relationships with them. And so, but that cannot, be at the expense of making sure that kids do what they're supposed to do. So again, that restorative piece is important. How do we then get back because we do have to at times send kids out, and so what do we do then to restore that relationship? And that has been a big part of our work as well, and learning how to do that. And so all of that, along with being the most engaging teacher that you can, but also perhaps understanding that for some kids there is a lot going on in their lives, and so how do we not take it personally so that we're able to have patience and empathy, while at the same time knowing that everybody gets that right to a good education, and not allowing classrooms to become dysfunctional.
Well, that's why it's a really big question, so I didn't expect any type of a magical answer, but I was just kind of wondering, because that seems to be an ongoing issue. I mean, since I was in school, that was an issue. So I just was hoping that maybe, other than what you always do is try to move them from childhood into adulthood, you still have that transition, so just clear expectations and same situation, same response on a regular basis, so that they know where the boundaries are. Because keeping them in class is really the ultimate goal, because they can't learn if they're not in class.
Yeah, it's always a sad thing to have kids somewhere other than class, because that's where the real learning takes place. And
Wasted opportunity.
Yeah, and we do talk to students about their opportunity, that they have an opportunity. We always want to afford them that we prefer to have you here, and these are the ways that you can stay here. So It's, I think, there's some amazing things as far as innovation goes. I think, again, our student support team has done some pretty innovative things. One of the things I've watched them do this year is trying to get some of our kids who you'd least expect it to be helping other kids, and in that process, really stepping up, or rising up, I should say, when they do that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, with the signatures and the binders, just wondering what percentage of kids actually accomplish that goal, and is there a correlation with their success and remembering to turn in homework? And I know it's valuable in our family, but I'm wondering how it works school-wide.
It works amazingly well. I guess I thought that the percentages would be much lower than they are, and maybe you would like to talk to this too, Director Stenbeck, but it's, there are those, some students who aren't able to do it because parents have crazy hours for work or maybe other reasons. And so we do have someone in the building that we try to identify to help with that, so that there's always the opportunity to get that signed. But we've been very pleased. We've tried hard to, make sure that our teachers are looking and making it a part of a daily expectation within class, so it's just not at home. And we've been very, very pleased to see that most kids do come back with that signature. So, yeah.
I'll just add, for tracking, the AVID site team and then the grade level teams frequently meet to discuss what are the expectations and how is it going. And so so they're setting specific expectations about creating time for kids to write in their planner. What are they writing in their planner? How are we checking how, when, and who is checking the planner? And so we are tracking that return rate, but then also what's going into the planner as well. So it's a process for the school to get used to every day, all kids with those binders and planners. But we were pleased. I think it was in the 90% or so, above 90%. The last time we measured, we're returning on a daily basis.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's nice to know you're checking the content too, because as a parent, I can check the different online platforms, but I don't know that I would necessarily catch everything that was missing if it wasn't there. So that's great. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, thank you, but it's fine. That's really encouraging, and I guess we had a conversation when Columbia Heights High School presented, what does, parent engagement look like? And I guess that kind of makes me wonder about that number and what does that reflect? Because I believe it was closer to the 50%.
For conferences.
For conferences,
Yeah.
but if we're measuring, parent engagement, and, many parents are kind of looking at all these different tools and maybe saying, I know what my kid's doing, and and maybe if they're working, they're not able to, but they're still knowing. And the grade reports come home in the binder too, so I'm assuming it's probably about 90% that they're checking their, kids' grades weekly too. So I guess just looking at that as your measure might be different then, so that we're not, kind of feeling discouraged about it. But thank you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things really is to keep a middle schooler organized. And I think, but if they learn it at that age, I think it's a life lesson, incredible life lesson. Wish I had.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so you mentioned the restorative practices when you were talking about relationships, and of course we know building those relationships early on prevents the behavior problems. Have you looked at adopting a restorative justice approach to student misbehaviors rather than dealing with punishments and referrals and stuff like that, to just go all out restorative?
Yeah, I think, restorative is we do a lot of restorative pieces already, and I think I think there's so much there, that potential there for us to move in more directions, more in that direction. Especially, I feel like with just given the fact that so many of our kids do have just a whole lot going on in their lives, and so it's how do you make sure you don't make it worse. And so, but at the same time, I guess we also know that it's a time in life where sometimes just having pretty clear expectations of what you need to do can be really helpful for kids too. So trying to find that balance, I think, for us right now between the two, and learning as much as we can, so that we can become as smart as we can in how to use restorative pieces as part of our entire program and keep more kids on track. It is, I think one of the biggest challenges is, yes, that, you know, if you have kids that are often sent out of class, how do you change that as opposed to just manage it? How do you really see change in that particular student so that that decreases in frequency or intensity? And that's probably one of the big questions that we deal with on a daily basis. Yeah.
And you mentioned a few times things going on in their lives, and a lot of our communities in general, but you know, Columbia Heights is not immune to it. We have a lot of students who've gone through trauma, different kinds of traumas, and so, you know, sometimes it helps to have the staff trained in trauma-informed instruction, you know, things that help staff know that certain things can be a trigger for students, or when a student reacts in a certain way, they've been triggered, you know, things like that. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and I know that was, we just had a training this past week with teaching and learning where we listened to someone talk about trauma-based instruction, and I thought it was one of the more fascinating professional development sessions I've had in a long, long time.
In fact, the presenter's coming back on January 17th for our District In-Service Day, and we'll be training grades 6 through 12 teachers for a half day.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the, excuse me, fall season summary and student participation numbers. Troy, welcome.
Good evening, Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. Probably should open this quick. Well, the idea here is that I was going to give you a sports fall update, but you've all done such a great job tonight of updating us. I think my presentation will go rather quick tonight. The core values that we're kind of looking at today would be community, excellence, and collaboration. Work hand in hand with our activities. If you want to take a look at fall numbers, they're in front of you there. Football, boys soccer, and volleyball continue to be very strong with our numbers. Some of the other ones are a little bit lower, but they're still in the competitive range, and they're doing real well. So our adapted is at 12, so we're hoping that we can restock there to continue to have our competitive program. Just to run through quickly how the sports went for us in the sports area. Girls tennis, the record is 1-12, but overall, for us, it was a good year because we actually got a lot of good girls into the program who are interested in learning the techniques of tennis. And so I think we're going to do well for building for the long term. The coach has done a real good job there of getting excitement and the students involved in there. And it's a really, really good group of girls to work with. And as far as we had 3 girls that were recognized for honorable mention, Laura, Yang, and Mora. Volleyball, their record this year was 8-11. Their achievements this year, they did first place in the Highlander tournament, and I think really that was kind of the turning point in their season. They really had success at that tournament, and from that point on, they tended to do a lot better, and it was really fun to see the change from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. They did make it to the second round of section play. Devonna Singer was named all-conference, and we had 2 young ladies as well, honorable mention, Eileen and Pasha Scott. Girls swimming, again, they had a nice year. Several of the relay teams and our individuals qualified for the section tournament. Izzy Reardon was named to the all-conference team, and Natalie, Hannah, and Lily were named honorable mention. Girls soccer, highlights here again, they're becoming very, very competitive. We had a really good season this year, I felt, with the girls soccer team. We did lose in the first round of the section play, but they worked really, really hard, and they're starting to play faster, and it's fun to watch. Evelyn Lagunas was named all-conference, and we had Mariella and Brianna named to the honorable mention. Boys soccer, real fun season to watch. They finished up 11-4-2. Achievements, they advanced to the third round of the section play. And the nice thing that was really good to see, they knocked off the #1 seed, which was Totino Grace, and it was a great game. We had 3 young men named to the all-conference, Abdel Ali, Alex Giles, and Jose Martinez, and 2 boys who were on the honorable mention, Abdullah and Cristo. District football, the football team ended up 5-5 this year. They did a great job. It was a lot of fun to watch them this year. They advanced to the second round of the playoffs. Coach Townsend was named co-coach of the year. We had a lot of boys recognized in district football: Bobby Hosh, Antonio Triplett, Manny Alvarez, Kansi Yang, and Dylan Lentz were all recognized as all district players. And honorable mention, Abdil, Brian, Ben, and Jude. There's also some more awards there. We are in the sub-district, red sub-district, and we got the Why We Play award. Kansi Yang does a great job. He's all-around good young man. Defensive MVP went to Bobby Hosh, and then we had offensive lineman of the year went to Manny Alvarez. Homecoming was absolutely fun this year. The kids did such a nice job with it. It was a lot of fun. Royalty, in case you we're going to check that out, Patrick Baumgarter and Tenzin Dorji were king and queen, and then for Prince and Princess was Dante Haley and Vanessa Pasantes. We did the Highlander Tour, which was my first round with Highlander Tour, and it was a lot of fun going to the elementary schools and seeing all the kids enjoy bringing the high school students down. It was a lot of fun. It was very enjoyable. We continued to have the annual bonfire, and the football game this year, I think it's definitely one of the better attended ones that since I've been here that I've seen. It was really, really well attended. A lot of fun to watch. And then we get to our adapted team, the Strikers. What a season. They finished their regular season 7-4-1. It was so fun this year to watch the team. Going to Stillwater to watch them in a game, and you guys did such a nice job talking about it, but they worked so hard this year. They were so fun to work with, and they just appreciated all the things that we did as a school, bringing them together. They remembered everything we did from last year when they went to state, so we looked at repeating all those things. They were asking if we were going to do them. We're like, absolutely, we're going to do them again. So it was a lot of fun. Working with them. They made all of us so proud to be part of it. We had such a good following go to Stillwater and support them. Heartbreaking game, we leading the whole thing, and it was so much fun though. And afterwards, they're all great. They get along great. We should like to make sure that we recognize Coach Ogg and Coach Morin for their work this season with the students. They did a great job when we transitioned coaching staffs this year. And we also threw them a great pep fest to send them off to state. And I just wanted to show you the picture of some of the other activities that we have going here. Our drum line performed, and we also had our bagpipers out, and Director Palmer was there as well, showing up his school spirit. So those areas are alive and well, and they're doing a great job, and they're a lot of fun. The students really love to watch it. And other programming that's just getting underway or hasn't been too long yet, as you guys have talked about, CA Robotics. They're off and running. They had a great first round tournament, and now, again, you all have seen this already, but they're going to be hosting at Columbia Academy the 3rd and 4th of December. And there's a lot of planning and going in there, so if you have an opportunity to come down there and watch that, it's going to be a lot of fun. High school robotics is just getting going here. We're getting their team set up right now, so they'll be getting to going here real soon. The math team, they're already out participating, knowledgeable. We're just getting them registered and getting ready to go. Spanish club, future problem solvers, and chess club are also getting going right now. Take a look at the beautiful weight room upgrades. Absolutely beautiful facility we have down there. The new equipment is absolutely terrific. If you take a look at the yellow, it really lightened up the room, I thought, and it makes it look actually kind of bigger than it is. The custodians did a great job cleaning out the room over summer, and you can see the floor shines in there now. We just got the final pieces of equipment in the fall, and those are all set in there now, so it's all up, running, and it looks great. So thank everyone who helped support that project. Again, Superintendent Kelly did a good job of explaining to you all the elephant's graveyard. Director Novacek did a great job coming in here and putting together a play in a short timeline. It was a heavy topic, social justice issues involved with it, and our kids did such a remarkable job of putting it together. It was terrific. It was a lot of fun to watch. And I'm really proud of, I guess, how quickly they were able to put that together and doing such a nice job performing it. So that was terrific to see. We also did a little work with Unified Sports. Columbia Academy has been involved with it already, so this year we looked at moving it to the high school and giving some opportunities at the high school for Unified Sports. Principal Roboleski let us go with a bowling event, so we went out and tried bowling with a group of students. It was a lot of fun, really good time for us. So just exploring kind of opportunities with the Unified Sports. And again, you've heard this one as well. CA Musical is coming up. Annie Jr., the performance dates are the 15th through the 17th, 7 p.m. in the PAC. I was down there when I did a little Instagram day in the superintendent's, and so I got to see their performance well, and they do such a nice job with their singing and their placement there, and we're looking forward for them to come up to the high school now and start the final parts to putting their musical together. And in our elementaries, again, our student service patrols do such a great job of getting our students safely to school and to their buildings each and every day. And we also have the destination imagination going in our elementaries as well. Again, through the activities office, we're going to work diligently to make sure that we have the world of opportunities for our students, and looking at any opportunity we have to grow any of the activities, sports, anything that we need to do to make sure that our students have those opportunities. And it brings us to questions about the fall. Went a lot faster now that you guys have talked about a lot of it. So,
do we have any questions or comments for Troy?
Just one comment is it's great to see, we talked about the arts with the Columbia Academy, but one thing that I like to remember is that the arts actually do develop brain skills as well and academic skills. So they are tied together, and so, as well as engaging students. So this is very, very good that we have so much participation.
Yep. Anyone else? Nice job. Thanks, Troy.
Thank you.
That was his first time presenting. He was a little nervous, so.
He did well.
He
Did very
really
well.
Yep.
Very
Okay.
well.
Next up is new suspended deleted courses for 2017-2018. Couple people.
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, Principal Robleski and I are here to propose new suspended, expired, and name changes for some courses for the next upcoming school year. So of course, Columbia Heights Public Schools strives to provide worlds of opportunity for every learner. And tonight's presentation will focus on excellence and innovation. So just kind of a backwards timeline for proposing new courses, suspending courses, deleting courses, and proposing name changes. Coming up in January, both the middle school and high school course registration begins. So in order to prepare for that, by December, we'll be coming back to ask for school board action. And after that, we will be sending the course catalogs off to print and press so that they are available. So backing up to today, we're presenting you with information. And then previously in the spring, and then also ongoing, really looking at and evaluating the implementation of any of our piloted courses, and then also course audit and recommendations. So that means gathering teachers and teacher leaders together, discussing what are some of the proposed changes, what are the possibilities. So that happens in the spring, but then pieces of it are ongoing as well. Keep going. All right. So today we'd like to propose two name changes, and the first one comes as a recommendation from the science team at the high school. These are both two high school courses. We have biology courses, and then we also offer a human biology. Well, that phrase in the world of science academia is outdated, and they would like it to be more on par with the state and call the course Anatomy and Physiology. So a little bit more accurate. So just an update there.
So we're just aligning with other high schools in the metro area.
The second course is a course that we have on the books, but wanted to make the title of the course a little bit more explicit. Instead of preparing for college entrance exams, as you know, with our focus on college and career readiness, it's not about graduating from high school, and it's not even about just the entrance exam. It's about preparing for being successful in college. And career. So we wanted to change the name of the course to 11th grade, preparing for college and careers, not just the test. So that's kind of an outdated name.
Does the content change?
Well,
was it really the test before? Okay, so the content is changing too.
Yeah, the content, the course was originally created, it's updating. So it's really focused for 11th graders and preparing them, for example, using Naviance curriculum with ACT. We do have that right now, but it's a matter of updating it and keeping up with the times.
So just a note, with the ACT test that's been implemented the last couple years, and having the Naviance program to take full advantage of preparing our students for an exam of that nature, the ACT, that we feel that it's a good updating time for that class, as well as the opportunity for all 11th graders to take that and prepare.
And other things would be, so we have Ramp Up to Readiness curriculum through the U of M that's spread throughout, and this would be an opportunity to tap into, for the 11th graders, to dive a little bit deeper into that Ramp Up curriculum instead of only an advisory. We could be, part of that curriculum could be incorporated into the class. So it's a class that we have on the books already, but we want it to be more accurate with the title. All right, new courses.
The new courses that we have proposed for the high school is a music theater course, which will be new this year. And then as you see below, it'll be the next 5 courses in our implementation of our early college program and our collaboration with Anoka Ramsey. So those are the courses that we are proposing at the high school and to continue in with our implementation of early college.
And directly following this presentation, we're going to go a little bit more in depth for you around the program, the early college program. Additional new courses will be moving, adding AVID Elective, the 7th grade course, adding an 8th grade course as well. Courses to suspend. There are a variety of reasons why we suggest to suspend a course. Suspending a course means that it won't appear in the course catalog. It'll still be in the computer system, though. Looking at a 5-year trend, at the enrollment rate and the kids who are opting and selecting the courses listed here, it's low. The kids choosing these courses has been, over the last 5 years, low. And we do feel that we have other courses in our elective course offerings that offset them, that kids find more appealing.
And just a side note that when it comes time to register students, if these classes are on the books, and as Director had mentioned, they're not heavily, students aren't registering for them. But if there's a number of students who have, those students then need to come back into the office and redo their registration. So it's really, so you're talking if you have 15 students signing up for a course that isn't going to run, then you're bringing them back into the office and they're having to redo their registration. So removing it and giving them a real value, what we're really offering for them, makes sense, and that's why we've suspended these courses.
We don't have any courses to delete at this time at the high school. Columbia Academy, this year we're running an elective pilot in the ELA department called Creative Expressions. This, as you saw earlier in the evening, the increase in enrollment, this was a way to offer some other electives, but we really feel that through the arts and other elective areas, engineering and whatnot, that we will be able to cover the course selection and choices. Moving down to the elementary level, not necessarily new or delete, but the media arts pilot. We're in our second year of piloting at Valley View. We needed a second year to really make some tweaks and adjustments to the class. We've made some major adjustments to the way that media arts is run, and we feel confident that this is something that can be replicated at other elementary schools. We're exploring both sites, and pretty soon here we'll come to a decision. We're leaning towards Highland Elementary. And there's also, the potential to replicate it at North Park. But we do feel that we can next year replicate it in one additional location and then expand from there. And that helps to cover the standards that are required. So if you have any questions.
Are students still prepared for the ACT then, in that preparing for college and careers class?
Are they, pardon me?
Are they prepared for the ACT? Do you cover that still in that class, or will you cover that in that class?
Yes, that will be a major focus of that class.
Okay.
And we feel that being a semester-long class, either first semester or second semester, we can create the curriculum timeline so that if it's the first semester, they get it at the end, and at the second semester, they get it at the beginning, so it'll be fresh.
Great, thank you.
May I just add a comment that tonight is an information item for you to ask questions, but because we would like some board action, the governance will really be brought back as an action item at the next board meeting.
Yep. Thank you.
Just as a reminder.
Anyone else?
No.
Thank you. And next up is early college.
Chair Larkin, members of the school board, Superintendent Kelly. This evening, we're here to provide you with an update and information on the early college programming. Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner, and this evening's presentation will focus on community and excellence, and I will add innovation. So looking at our implementation timeline for early college, last year we started with providing extra additional math, college-level math, and differentiated math to support our students in 9th grade. Now those students this year are in the College English Boost class, using that springboard curriculum that we talked about at our last school board meeting. Principal Robleski and I have had, over the years, several meetings with Anoka Ramsey Community College through our Joint Powers Agreement, and we've done a lot of meetings and working and reading and researching all the requirements coming out of the Higher Learning Commission. And so in trying to navigate all of the requirements and working with Anoka Ramsey Community College, in the first year rollout next year, these would be the courses that per Anoka Ramsey's plan, in order for students to receive an AA degree, this is where we would start. So previously, we just provided you information with, these would be new courses that we're proposing. Next, in the future, there are a whole host of other Anoka Ramsey courses that we could offer between the years 2018 and 2020 as we continue to roll up. Just so some information, Anoka Ramsey requires 60 credits in 11 different goal areas. So it's not 60 credits of math or 60 credits of English. They're very specific in meeting the different goal areas for the degree. And in our conversations and meetings and planning out, there are some equivalencies between passing an AP exam. So if you take the AP biology course and pass the exam, then you wouldn't need to take the Anoka Ramsey biology course. They would be equivalent. So there's some flexibility in the schedule there and with the offerings. Okay, so here's the implementation process that we've been working on over the last few years. It's long, sorry. Okay, So as I mentioned, we have consulted and continue to consult. I believe on Monday we have another meeting with Anoka Ramsey with the experts to learn about the guidelines and what are the possibilities. We do have a joint powers agreement with Anoka Ramsey Community College. We have been planning and outlining those courses. Determining the staff, the credentials of the staff. There are, last year, the Higher Learning Commission came out with strict guidelines and requirements for who can teach in a 9-12 setting a college level class and qualify for credits. Develop a communication plan. Prepare and support our students, so we're doing that actively with our reading and English classes. Prepare and support staff. Teacher application to Anoka Ramsey Community College, that's coming up soon. Determine the budget and funding source. This does come to there's a cost to the school district for each course through Anoka Ramsey that we offer. And this will largely be covered and funded through the Achievement and Integration Grant. We are determining our criteria for success, of course, as we use any or implement any program or project. And then we will implement, monitor, and adjust as needed. And this is something we're already doing, of course, with the early math class, the math boost class and the English boost class. More information, as I mentioned, the Higher Learning Commission enacted stricter guidelines for credentialing high school teachers to teach the college classes. We had a changeover. We've been working with the same person at Anoka Ramsey. Last spring, there was a change in staff, and so Principal Robleski and I've met with the new Anoka Ramsey staff and are developing those relationships as well. We were pleased that we did have the joint powers agreement in place to fall back onto and all of the planning over the last few years. As I mentioned, the teacher applications and PD plans are due, coming up very soon. We will be also later on this evening asking for a joint powers agreement with the North Suburban districts. I'll just say this agreement is going to be crucial for the success of our early college program. If teachers don't have, I'm going to move ahead, the master's degree plus, in addition, plus 18 graduate level courses in their subject area. So many teachers will, and I did as well, got a master's degree in education, but not in math or not in biology. And so we have been working closely with our human resources department and the high school teachers to determine who could qualify to teach the courses, and then the Higher Learning Commission, in conjunction with the state legislature, has determined that we can do professional development plans. So high school teachers are willing over the next 2 years to take those additional graduate level courses in order to become certified. We feel that we've got teachers that are close and some that are already qualified and some that are far. And so if we have that joint powers agreement and we're able to collaborate with other districts who have a qualified teacher in, say, I don't know, any subject area, physics, and we have a qualified teacher in biology, and we can collaborate across the districts, we'll be able to provide the AA degree for our students by the time they graduate from high school. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're budgeting for the Anoka Ramsey Community College courses. The cost per class is scheduled to increase over the next few years, and so we're being really cognizant as we're writing the Achievement and Integration Plan that's due March 2017. So I mentioned the requirements already. So if there's any questions.
Zena, wasn't the plan from the beginning to have some type of a collaboration with other districts to be able to offer more courses? If we only had 6 kids here, but they had 6 there, I mean, that's kind of the intent from the beginning, but the joint powers agreement helps solidify us being able to do that. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So we have a joint powers agreement with Anoka Ramsey, and this evening you'll have action brought forth for the North Suburban with the other districts in order to allow for that type of collaboration.
That's what I guess I was getting at when you said it's crucial for us to be able to potentially offer more classes to our kids. That's something that's important.
I would say so.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah, so what does that collaboration look like for the students? If, another district has a highly qualified physics teacher and we have the highly qualified biology teacher, for example, does that mean our kids are moved around or the teacher would come teach here? So, what does that look like for the kids?
So all of the districts that are involved by the beginning of December are asking for the joint powers agreement to be approved. And once all of the districts have that joint powers agreement approved, then all of the directors of teaching and learning for each district are going to work out and hash out some of those logistics. Technology could be useful in delivering instruction to kids in different places. So there's lots of possibilities, and we'll be hashing that out shortly.
Me? Okay. I have a question with regard to these courses that we're looking at adding. These are the ones that we're looking at adding actually at our site, but not all the courses that may be available through the collaboration. Is that correct?
So we're asking for approval to offer those courses so that we can have them on the books if need be. And so if a student is going to be taught, let's say the instructor comes from Spring Lake Park, but they would need to enroll through Columbia Heights High School in order, and then we would collaborate with the teachers. And then Anoka Ramsey has pretty strict guidelines for the syllabus of the course and what the course is, and they have mentors from the college come and work with each of the teachers. So we know that whether it's an instructor from a different district or ours, it's still going to be that same Anoka Ramsey course.
I would just like to add that we're being really descriptive right now, but the bigger question is we don't exactly know how it's going to work, because this is formalizing the agreement, and then what we have to look at is that each of the college, we all have a joint powers agreement with Anoka Ramsey, but we all have a different approved plan on how to get there. And that was part of the beauty of the flexibility with Anoka Ramsey, is that they came to some common agreements, but then each school district sat down with them and figured out course by course by course which courses would qualify in our individual systems. So we're all collective and yet unique, and that is something to remember. When the superintendents get together, and I used to call it the districts of six, because there are 6 people on the 6 districts on the joint powers agreement with Anoka Ramsey, and that includes Centennial. But by the time we got down to really collaborating and moving back and forth, there were only 5. We really need to have serious conversations. The questions that you're raising here, I don't want to promise and say this is what we said it was going to be, because we don't know. Mounds View was the first to pioneer this, and we are working collaboratively with them. And there are not too many school districts or clusters in the state that have really done any of this work before. So it's an amazing opportunity. And so Hala, it's a perfect question of how will we, move? Will we move students? Will we use technology? Will we move teachers? It could be all of that and perhaps more. And I think that is the challenge and the opportunity of it all. The other thing we will be doing, if we do have joint classes, or if we're running the same class, I think Director Stenvick has said this before, but we'll be doing joint curriculum writings. And so the directors of teaching and learning will be getting together, as well as the superintendents. Superintendents looking at a more 20,000-foot view on what's going on as far as the legalese of swapping staff, sharing staff, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure the HR directors will be involved. And then on the ground will be the directors of teaching and learning and the principals, figuring out how all of the logistics work. And we'll keep you updated. That's one of the reasons that we're working on it tonight and I'm bringing it forward to you, is that we want to be as transparent as possible, but it is an evolving process. One more thing on this is that MnSCU sometimes runs, the college system sometimes runs hot and sometimes runs cold on what they think they're going to do. And so I always send you those articles in the updates on what's going on, because then you have the same information we have on how it's developing out. We have the Association of Metropolitan School Districts that's working with us on this. Minnesota School Boards Association is working on this, and the Minnesota Association of School Administrators, as well as the Commissioner of Education. So it's still, what do I want to say, taking shape. So we don't have all the answers tonight.
Is that true of the, sorry, I'm really sick, sorry, Hala. Is that true of financing then too? There could be a wide range of cost for us also then, given we're not sure how it's going to work, or it's pretty set
There's
inside that grant?
There's a price per course.
Okay.
There is a price per course, and then part of the beauty of the collaborative that is on as an action item tonight is to see how we can cut some of those costs, the behind-the-scenes costs. We won't be able to leverage the price coming down with the college, but we can look at how we can bring finances down and be more cost-effective as a group.
Anyone else?
Will we be able to use any general fund money towards this?
We will have to.
Okay.
Because although Zena has been very nice about saying we're going to try to put as much as we can into the integration and the achievement funds. When we moved forward with early college, and we talked about it at the board initially, this will take FTE, and we may have to do as we do for other courses in the general education system, because that's what the general fund is for, buy FTE out of the general fund for early college. Because once we've committed and we have students in process, then we have, if integrity is one of our core values, then we have to make sure that they can get their degree as well.
Well, it makes sense to me since students will be receiving dual credit, high school and college credit, so, yes.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up would be the police liaison contract. Director Holmgren.
Chair Locker, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. Good evening. Tonight I bring to you the liaison contract we have with the City of Columbia Heights. This is a program we've done with them for quite a few years now. We actually get a very good deal from them. The way the cost is split down for the officer is we pay 1/2 of 9/12 of a particular cost of an officer, and so we have 2 of them. So actually, over half of the cost of these officers are covered by the City of Columbia Heights. We're looking at a 2% increase for next year, which is about $1,800 from where we are now. And I certainly think we should move ahead again with this contract, and I'm looking at bringing this again in 2 weeks to go ahead, have the board accept it. And with that, is there any questions?
Anybody have questions?
How much of the officer's day is really spent in the district?
Well, I couldn't tell you exactly how much time, but they are here during the full school day, the way I
Okay.
understand.
And perhaps Director Hollaby could comment on that, because you deal with that directly.
Yes, I'd just like to add, I'm in daily communication with someone from Columbia Heights Police Department in one capacity or another. And although they have department meetings they have to attend, if you saw earlier at 7 o'clock this evening, Jason Pine, who is our liaison for the high school in Highland, volunteered to work an extra hour beyond his shift to come here at the beginning of the school board meeting. So they have schedules that they'll work evenings here in the district, but occasionally they have department meetings or something they have to do during the day. But every single SRO that has served our district is always willing to go above and beyond for our kids and our families. So,
Anyone else? This is coming back on the 6th?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is the summer program data.
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. We're Director Stenvig, Teaching and Learning, and Director Stunkel for Community Ed, and myself are delighted to come on a wintry day like today and present the wrap-up of our summer data. I think it's ironic. I think every time it ends up on the agenda, Superintendent Kelly's assistant, Hoyam, Mrs. Hoyam, plays with us because I think it's usually snowing when we're talking about summer school.
Nice.
So we are creating worlds of opportunity for every learner through our summer programming with core values of community, excellence, and collaboration with Northeast Metro 916, as well as Blooming Heights and other organizations we collaborate with in the community, and innovation.
So some of the goals for all of our summer programming in general are reading and math interventions, opportunities to earn high school credit, provide English language support, services that are mandated by IEPs, and then other opportunities for enrichment.
So I'd like to address the English language support. We have a home visiting program and that works on literacy with families that their students are English learners. And as I explain every year, the summer school for extended school year for students on IEPs are a team decision with the families and the staff to see if the student would have regression academically or socially, and if so, then summer programming is provided for all ages, birth through 21.
So last spring, we brought you some national research around summer programming and summer loss, summer academic loss. And so you can see that comparing achievement gains separately over the school year versus summer months reveals that much of the achievement gap originates over the summer period when children are not in school. Another piece of research is that low-income students continue to perform at considerably lower levels than higher-income peers in reading and math. That research has shown that student skills and knowledge often deteriorate during the summer months, and low-income students face the largest losses. And lastly, of 500 teachers in summer learning programs in 15 cities across the nation, 66% of them said it typically takes them 3 to 4 weeks to reteach the previous year's skills. So we are, I think sometimes this is referred to as the summer slide. This is something that we're combating by offering summer programming. Some students, you'll see based on our data, some students are still regressing during the summer, even though they're going to summer programming. Some are making gains and some are maintaining. So we'll provide you with some averages this evening. So with that, let's start with our youngest scholars.
Good evening. With Bridges to Kindergarten, that is a program for amongst our youngest scholars, and these are students that are entering kindergarten. So we do outreach for students that are going through our early childhood screening program, but also students that have been enrolled in our pre-K4 program. And what we're really looking at is targeting those students that have not had an early childhood experience, to get them familiar with some of the routines and rituals of kindergarten, and then to do some exposure to the academics that will take place in kindergarten. There is an assessment that's done in kindergarten in the first month. That is what we're looking at for the data that you'll see in the next slide. And what we do see with the data is that the students that are participating in Bridges to Kindergarten are doing better on that initial assessment than students that were not enrolled in the Bridges to Kindergarten program. So on this slide, you'll see exactly that data. And so this is the reading assessment that takes place in the kindergarten classrooms during that first month of school. And you'll see that both with letter naming and letter sounds from, and this data is both for summer of 2015 participants and also 2016 participants, that students that do have that experience in Bridges to Kindergarten are assessed at a higher level, are doing better on their assessment than the students that were not participating in the Bridges to Kindergarten program.
So moving on to elementary grades. We offer a 4-week summer school program for elementary students. We target students qualify for the program if they're not at grade level. There are a variety of ways that students can qualify. Typically, it's a reading or math, but there are other factors as well. Assessing a 4-week program is interesting. Sometimes some of the measures you'll see we're measuring last spring to this fall, and some of the measures are within the 4-week program. So we'll take a look at that. So both reading and math. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, there's a summer learning loss, right, in general with any student or any child in our country. So really measuring what's the retention rate. So are they retaining, and what is the loss, and how are we preventing that loss? So this one is measuring spring of last year to fall of this year, and you can see last summer to this summer. How much are they retaining, and how much are they losing? So this is reading fluency. So it's not the full battery of reading, but it's reading fluency. So you can see we are, as I mentioned, inviting and enrolling some of our students who have some of the highest needs in reading, meaning not proficient on MCA, not close to proficiency on MCA, and we are working to stop that negative perpetual decline. Another measure is reading comprehension. So this is spring to fall as well. So this is looking at growth on reading comprehension. And so you can see the majority of our students from last spring, this is just for students who were in summer school, grew over the summer in reading comprehension at least a point, if not more, on the assessment instead of regressing. The 18% of the kids just held steady, and 9% of the kids had about a 2% or 2 point on the assessment regression. So we're seeing with fluency, there's some regression. With comprehension, we're making some gains there. That's where we're at in terms of reading for elementary school. For math, last spring we presented to you using some individualized software programming. So with math, we have our regular curriculum in the summertime, but also we've been using Dreambox. And so really with students using an average of 48.4 minutes a week on this math intervention software, we were able to see a 15.4%, that's within a year growth. And so if you think about it, 4 weeks in the summer is only about 7% of an entire year. Within those 4 weeks, they grew 15.4%. So that's more than double. So we're really seeing with the new Math and Focus curriculum that we piloted in the summer, and then that additional math intervention, that software, we're able to see some tangible growth there. So that's really exciting. Summer school for elementary kids isn't just math and reading. We also offer science, art, and physical education classes. They get outdoors quite a bit. We offer breakfast and lunch for everyone, recess time, and transportation. So it's not just reading and math. Moving to middle school, it's the same population for our middle school courses. Because Columbia Academy is really entrenched in weekly PLCs and personalized learning, the assessment and measure of assessment was designed by with the teachers to measure the 4-week growth within the 4 weeks. So looking at the classroom-based assessments in both reading and math, here you can see measuring high growth, low growth. Other is summer school attendance is kind of sporadic. So some kids at the end, at the last week, it kind of tapers off. So there's some others in there in the data that was reported back to me. That's I think the majority of that is around attendance in the last week. But here you can see a large percentage of students making high growth in the 4 weeks on those pre and post assessments in both math and reading. Other students making growth, we'd like them to make more growth, but less regression than would be typical had they not gone to summer school. And I think this really is a true test to that personalization of learning that Columbia Academy has been doing for the last 3 years. With high school, the target population is really students who need to make up a high school credit. So this is a graph over the last 3 years. You can see on the left-hand side are the number of students enrolling in summer school for high school credit. And then as that has gone, as that number has declined, so has the overall number of credits earned. I attest this to, so I was here every day for summer school and got to see the classes, so smaller enrollment. We do offer credit recovery at the high school, and so many kids are making the classes up that way through credit recovery. Some students are opting to actually go to Metro Heights through 916 over the summer. We just had fewer kids enrolling, needing that credit this year. Also at our high school, because we do offer 8 different classes for each day, kids have a lot of opportunity to make up the credits. So we're just seeing a downward trend in kids needing and enrolling for the credits. So if there's any questions.
Questions?
I just have a comment. I'm concerned about the low achievement, especially what we saw at the middle school, or at Columbia Academy. Are we able to help bring kids up to reading level through summer school and other strategies? So that when they get to Columbia Academy, they're at grade level?
So the students that qualify for for funding of summer school and who are attending summer school are students who are below grade level. In 4 weeks, our goal is to get them up. So if a student is say 3 years behind in their grade level reading, in 4 weeks, our goal they're not going to get up to an 8th grade reading level, but we are wanting to halt that summer learning loss and then grow them as well. So we're looking at growth. In 4 weeks, they're not going to get to proficiency, but as Principal Burkus mentioned earlier, all of their efforts around literacy, we're trying to target them in a variety of places and times and ways.
So you have strategies in Columbia Academy to help bring them up to grade level during the year?
Yes, and with strategies like AVID across the district, hopefully we're having a system-wide approach to being organized, systematic literacy. We have changed out the curricula and whatnot, and really raising the bar to make it more rigorous. And so as kids come through, we're hoping that helps. But yep, providing the 4-week summer, we are seeing growth. Some kids have far to grow, and some kids are close to grade level.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the information, information on the board organizational meeting. You want on with that? Okay.
Mr. Chair and members, it's that time of year. We've had a general election, and by law, we have to have an organizational meeting in the January of the following year. And so in the board packet tonight, what we have are at your table or on your screen, we have some things that you typically would see at the organizational meeting. The first, if you're looking on your screen, is the special meeting call and the agenda. This is a typical agenda. What has been done in the past. Last year, when we had our organizational meeting, we didn't have a general election, so we did not have anyone to actually swear in. This year, we will in January. So what will be added between 1 and 2 on that agenda would be the swearing in of the new member. The organizational really deals with the governance of who and what roles people play on the boards, and you'll see that with the elections. And then the appointments. You set the meeting dates and times formally so that it can be placed on the district calendar and so that people know a full year in advance when the board will be meeting. You have appointments of board representatives and appointments of board building liaisons. And so that's a process which you need to take action on, but it in the past has been very flexible and done during the organizational work study, a special called meeting, right there, somewhat on the spot. You also confirm your salaries at that meeting, and then we do the typical kind of management things that we need authority to do, your authority to do, such as designation of depositories, electronic transfers, legal counsel and contacts, the designation of the election clerk and the designation of the official newspaper. And that's a pretty standard agenda that happens throughout the state in January with all school boards. In addition to that, we always ask for some approval for that organizational meeting and how to govern it with two documents. One is one that past boards have worked on with the school district attorney, Karen Keppel, regarding parliamentary procedures and how to do nominations for elected officials. And then the larger document that is put out by MSBA is called the First Monday in January, and it is given to all school boards across the state. It's reviewed by the MSBA school attorneys and propose that you consider that as the actual background and information on your organizational meeting. Now, it was not revised for a while, and then due to some districts, of which ours was one, the special elections that we went through this year, and other districts, about 30 to 32 of them across the state, MSBA, AMSD, and the Minnesota Association of School Administrators all went together to say, let's clarify this this election law, because it's clearly not working for school districts and it's costing them a lot of money and aggravation. And so that passed. I'm not going to go into all of the details of that legislation because we've done that before, so I'm due to time. But in the new manual, they have updated that, so they've clarified seating of new board members for special elections and seating members elected to fulfill unexpired terms. None of that would be germane to what we're doing in January, but that was the only change in the manual, and I want to thank the school district election clerk, Don Hoyam, for going page by page, paragraph by paragraph, to verify that we were on, that those were all the revisions that occurred. So that is really what it is. So it's essentially the same document that you've used in the past with just the update from the legislature. I guess the governance question for the board at the next school board meeting would be if these to approve these, so on December 6th, so that we can use them in January at the meeting. And really, this is an information item, so that is all I have, unless you want more.
Anybody have any questions? It's bringing forward information. We have to approve the process that we're going to use in January, so providing the information ahead of time so everybody has a clear understanding of, or at least an understanding of.
Is there a typical date that we swing to have this meeting on?
First Tuesday of January. So, what's that?
You have
5th, so it'll be the first Tuesday, so it'll be an extra special call meeting in addition to the 2nd, the 4th, and the work session.
The 3rd?
It's the 3rd this year.
So, yep.
Thank you, Don.
Anybody else have any questions or comments about that? Okay. We will move on to our action items. First up would be the 2016 audit. As Bill's pulling stuff up just for the viewing audience, so they understand that we had an in-depth presentation last week at our work session regarding the audit. So this will be a review and action tonight.
Good evening again, Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. Again, we have Matt Mayer here from Bergen KDV. He is the partner that has done our audit again this year, and he's here to give us a public presentation for our public. So, all right, pass it over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, thanks again for the time allotted in the agenda tonight. As you mentioned, we did a deep dive into the numbers, the audit results last week, and I got a very brief summary of that for public consumption tonight, and just a reminder of some of the key points associated with the audit for 2016. We did provide an unmodified opinion on the financial statements this year, an unmodified opinion on the single audit, which is a compliance audit on the federal programs that the district receives. We had one internal control finding associated with lack of segregation of accounting duties, and one relatively minor finding on Minnesota Leo compliance regarding a collateral assignment at a local bank, which is an issue that's already been resolved here going into the 16-17 school year. So I think a clean audit for the district, good results from the various reports that we're issuing, and our thanks to the finance department here at the district under the leadership of Director Holmgren. They were very well prepared for us. The audit went very smoothly throughout the entire process, very helpful in all of our requests, and have a shared goal in accurate and transparent financial reporting here at the district. It's very clear to us that's the case. Just a quick summary of the financial position and the results of operations for the year. As a board, you authorized a budget that spent down the fund balance by about $230,000 during the year. During the year, the revenue came in a little bit less than anticipated, mostly associated with special education activity, higher than anticipated needs on the tuition side. And expenditures for the year came in pretty much right on budget, just a little bit over budgeted by about $64,000. So rather than fund balance going down about $230,000 for the year, it did decline about $770,000 and ended the year at a $2.85 million fund balance. That fund balance has a lot of different components to it, and while you did spend about $700,000 of it down, a lot of that was in restricted categories, which were required to be spent anyway. So things like operating capital and health and safety were a lot of the major expenditures during the year. And the financial health of the district is really determined by that unassigned number on the top line of the bottom portion of the chart. And you can see that did go down, but not significantly, from $2.6 million to $2.3 million. That's the board's kind of share of the discretionary amount of the fund balance on which you can make decisions moving forward. The other categories there, your hands are relatively tied, and you need to spend those dollars on the needs and the directives that the state provides for you. So again, $700,000 of spending down, but only about $200,000 of that occurred in the discretionary categories during the year. The food service fund had a surplus for the first time in the last couple of years, ended the year with a strong fund balance of more than 10% of about $226,000. And the community service fund as well had a surplus each of the last couple of years. That fund has all of your ECFE, school readiness, community education programs, all of those ended the year with positive fund balances, indicating to us that the revenue streams that you've dedicated for those are sufficient and appropriate to cover the costs of doing business in that particular fund. I'll leave it at that. If there are any questions on the more deep discussion we had last week, I'd be happy to respond to that. Otherwise, we'd be looking for acceptance of our audit report so it can be submitted to the state in time for the month-end deadline.
Any questions or comments regarding, actually, let's do this first. Let's make a motion to accept. Ted?
Second.
Molly? Okay, now discussion or questions, comments?
I just have a question on the lack of segregation of duties. You found that the food service managers were receiving cash and also preparing the deposits, and community education secretary receives money as well as reconciles the deposits. Is there any risk to the district of, I don't know, embezzlement or, not having those funds going to the right place? And can we?
There is that possibility, and that's why we bring it to your attention. We're certainly not critiquing the integrity of the individuals that are handling those duties. It's the structure of the system itself that is in place. And what we would like to see is that those that have custody of the asset, that would be the cash coming in, do not have access to the books of original entry. So we can have some sort of reconciliation off to the side that indicates what was expected associated with the revenue stream, and then compare that to the actual dollars that were receipted. When the same person is handling both sides of that, there is that opportunity, but we're not indicating that's the case. We're just drawing your attention to that. And if there is an opportunity for further segregation or reassignment of duties to get that segregation, that would be worthwhile from our perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing nothing further, motion on the table is to accept the budget as proposed, or the audit as proposed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Bill. Next up is the North Suburban Post-Secondary Success Consortium Joint Powers Agreement. Superintendent Kelly.
Mr. Chair and members, I think that we've discussed this throughout the year and in depth this fall as being to our advantage as a district and and for our students to join together with 5 other districts, those districts being Mounds View, Fridley, Spring Lake Park, and Roseville area schools, to form a consortium called the North Suburban Post-Secondary Success Consortium to support our early college initiatives. And the governance question that I bring before you tonight is asking for your approval.
Get a motion to move that forward, please.
So moved.
Second.
Holla.
Yeah.
Ted, thank you. Discussion.
I just can't see any way that it wouldn't benefit our district. I know you've put a lot of work into it, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all the hard work, and I think it's really exciting potential for other districts to model even. It's pretty great.
So what's so joyous about this is that it's collaborative and not competitive between and among the districts. So thank you for recognizing.
I just have a question on the costs that are allocated to each district. I saw it said that we would only have to pay for the program services and activities that we use. Is that is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and are you confident there are adequate checks and balances so that we don't ever get overcharged for those fees? And I'm just leery about that.
I think given our past experiences, the 5 districts involved are going to be very conscious of that.
Okay.
Because we've come out of different collaboratives that have not been quite as, what do I want to say, where we have been perhaps overcharged or not used services, and it was part of a membership fee. So this is kind of no cost, no overhead, no fuss, unless you're engaged in the activity and want to put money on the table.
Okay, so you think there's adequate transparency to know that we will be charged fairly?
Yes, because we'll be sitting at the table talking about who's going to be the consultant and dividing it 5 ways or however people are participating.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, anyone else?
So as I understand it, there's really no overhead.
Absolutely none.
None. Okay, and that's where a lot of those membership fees and stuff, is where you can.
That's
yeah.
right. And the withdrawal period is very brief, too. So if you decide this isn't working, then it's out.
I just think the efficiencies make all the sense in the world by having an agreement like this. We can share the costs and not have to duplicate efforts.
And I think that Member Landwehr reminisced with me at our last board meeting that it kind of was back in 1998 or year 2000 when we first started,
Yes.
where we all sat around the table and we just did the work and divvied up the costs. So it's kind of back to the future.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Next action item is our board book renewal. Director Henneken.
Good evening, Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. This is our action item, our annual action item for renewal of the board book product that we use for our digital board meetings. It continues to be a valuable product for us and for the district staff that have to prepare all of the board packets. So there's a lot of time savings in that preparation because the tool will automatically create those things for us. There's a lot of savings in considering we don't have to print all of those board packets. And it is a deal that we receive and many other districts across the state receive through MSBA, and the price hasn't changed since we started many years ago. So the recommendation from the management is that we continue this and move forward with renewing that product.
Motion to move that forward, please.
So moved.
Laura?
Second.
Natty? Questions, comments, discussion?
Has the price changed any?
Nope.
Okay,
It's the same since we started.
that's great.
Anyone else?
I just have a comment. It works really quite well, and from the way I understand it, is it saves an enormous amount of time. And I like to save a tree. We get too much paperwork as it is, so it's nice to have it all in one place. It seems to me also that it also makes it pretty quick to adapt to last-minute additions, rather than having to, reprint everything, and everything's always in the same place. So even storage and retention has got to be another good benefit of it.
Absolutely.
Seems like a deal.
Anyone else?
Just a comment, I'd also like to see if possible, that we could have our updates delivered electronically. I don't know if Board Book or some other system has that, but that, that just seems to be in keeping with the times, password protected, electronic delivery.
Which updates are you talking about?
The superintendent updates we get every Friday.
Because there's the school board report that comes out too. I didn't know if you were talking about that.
No, rather than have them delivered by courier to our house. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea if it was possible. If Board
For
Book would.
purposes of confidentiality, when you have, the reason we don't do it, and this has been discussed before, but the reason we don't do it is because once you put it in an email electronic form, it becomes a matter of public record.
Public record, yeah.
So that's why.
Right. Any other questions, comments regarding board book and the renewal? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Board topics. Annie, you got anything you remembered you did?
Pardon me?
You were supposed to be trying to remember anything that you did for your board report.
I remembered that I was traveling over the weekend, so I got to unfortunately miss a lot of fun things that were happening in town here.
That's fine. All right, I mean to put you on the spot.
No, I don't feel on the spot, though.
Anyone else for board topics?
I just want to make a comment on the segregation of duties that, I'm wondering, is there a system in place or is there a plan in place so that we don't run a risk with that, with those funds being handled and?
I think, as Director Holmgren comes forward, I think that he and I work together on fraud, which is what is on putting in practices.
Right.
And that it is not uncommon, and you will probably get the same findings at AMSD, smaller school districts, where we do get the finding that we don't have segregation of duties because we're too small. And so one of the things, and perhaps Bill will speak more about this, is that we're going to work with our auditing firm over the course of this next year to see if there's anything we can tweak. But as small as we are, we may never get to that point. And so we need to be vigilant, but we can't add the staff because of the scale of our school district. Having said that, Bill, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, well, I guess I'd like to reiterate that school districts our size and smaller, 100% of the districts get this finding. And it's just because we don't have enough staff members to segregate every duty up in the business office. So we try very hard. For an example, I mean, we do have an accountant that takes in the funds, deposits the funds, and then we have a separate accountant that does the actual bank reconciliation. So, so in that case, the person who deposited the funds can't do anything with covering up something that happened in the books because that's a separate person doing that. Okay. In our case, there's only just a very small number of places where we have somebody kind of doing two things. And the two that you listed earlier are one of those examples. At the lunchroom, kids drop off their money, and our head cook takes that money and makes a deposit, and then it sends it to the bank. So we're upstairs, we try to separate that, so who puts the money in the bank is not taking it to the bank or making that actual deposit. So, I mean, it is a finding. As Matt said, it's a lower level finding than what you see in some smaller districts where they probably only have one person in the whole business office. But we work very hard to segregate everything that we possibly can, but we just don't have enough staff. And now with the cut that we had in our business office this past year, it even makes it more difficult for us to segregate our duties totally. But we do try very hard to separate it. But because of the size we are, we're never going to perfectly get rid of that without adding more staff.
I just didn't know if there was a plan where we could do it without having to add staff. And That's why I want to get more information.
As you can see, the pieces in the finding that really are the more difficult ones is the ones that are away from the business office, they're far away. In order for us to change that, we'd have to have a staff member actually go over there and pick up the money and make the deposit. And I just don't have the time for someone to be running around every day for an hour, collecting funds.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else, board topics? Hearing none, we will adjourn this meeting at 9:17. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
January,